Folks, we got some singing, some dancing, and some gambling to do today because you're here on Riverdale Season 6, Episode 3. And of course, I've got my soul, the owner of my soul here with me as the co-host. It's Sara Caplan, everybody.
Hello, I'm Sara Caplan. And yes, that's true. I am the owner of my co-host, Omar Najam's soul.
My
Omar,
goodness.
so good to be here talking Riverdale.
So good to be here talking to
you
you about what I think is one of the most important pieces of literature since Dante, if I am to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, inarguably, right? like Riverdale season 6 is up there with the whole Dante cycle. It's up there with the works of Milton.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, Omar, we're joined by a very special guest today who himself is sort of an expert in Milton.
Oh, really?
Got his own podcast coming out on... if this podcast that we do is about the high literary works of Riverdale, Ross is, you could qualify it as more of a trash podcast. It's just looking at this little thing called Paradise Lost. But I'm talking about my friend Ross Bryant. Hi, Ross.
Hey, Sara. Hey, Omar. Yes, I'm working on a podcast right now that hopefully will be released soon. That's, a trashy rewatch podcast about the 17th century epic poem Paradise Lost.
Yeah,
but it's nice to get some official supplemental intertextuality going.
Yes.
And so it was very rewarding for me to engage in Riverdale Season 6, Episode 3, which delves deeply into demonology and angelology, subjects of which I am very fascinated.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say it's kind of a sister podcast, but specifically Episode 3.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Yeah.
Now tell me this, y'all. Since I have literally seen no other Riverdale, does the character of Lou Cypher feature heavily in other episodes?
This is his first appearance, but he will remain important.
But not
he
the
will
last.
Remain important. He will remain important.
Yeah.
And speaking of remaining important and important people, can we welcome to the microphone our producer, Azzy? How's it going?
Hello. Going good. I'm back again, fact checking some stuff, maybe. Chiming in where need be.
And Azrael, you're sort of an archfiend yourself, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Domain of Pestilence. It's casual, but we try not to put labels on it.
Fantastic.
That's
and
beautiful.
Ross, for your reference, inspired by Riverdale Season 6 itself, this podcast has no clear or defined structure. All ideas are good ideas. But the one pervasive theme is you can always ask Azzy if you want something looked up.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific.
Yeah. It's a segment we have that lasts the entirety of the episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
And what an episode it is. We dive into some deep world building in this one. Now, in episode 1, we kind of dealt with cults and ancient folklore that's haunting the town. In episode 2, we dealt with ghosts and more folklore. In this one, we're kind of continuing the tradition a little bit, right?
Yeah. Can I ask you some questions, Ross?
So I wish you would. Yes.
Yeah. You've never seen Riverdale.
Not a damn second until today.
And viewer, that means that if you've never seen Riverdale, of course, that's totally okay because you're right there with Ross. Mm-hmm. Ross, going into this, did you have a sense of who the main character of Riverdale was?
Call me crazy, but I assumed it was lovable, guileless redhead Archie.
That's
interesting.
So correct. Yeah.
But as it turns out, the protagonist spot is rather diffuse.
It's true. It's true.
This is truly an ensemble production. Although Jughead Jones is our sort of Rod Serling.
Yes.
Correct.
Wandering through and breaking the fourth wall and telling us a tale for our consideration. He is sans his famous totems. I never saw him with his inverted crown hat.
Yeah,
I never saw him munching on a dang old hamburger. His eyes were very open. not little slits.
So you were. It sounds like you were an Archie fan. Like you were a fan of the comic strips.
I'm to say I'm a fan is a stretch. I'm very aware of Archie and and I've read him before, but like that's such a deep well. Like those have been going for so long. But I know the broad strokes. Like I know enough to know that there's characters like Ms. Grundy and locales like Pop's Chocolate Shop. So imagine my surprise when over the course of this episode, I learned that Pop's Chocolate Shop is perhaps the field of Armageddon itself.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Where the final battle of good and evil will be waged.
Ross, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it could be said that, I hope I get this right. Pop's Chocolate Shop, it could be argued, is perhaps secretly a ghost train. And if you attain dominion over it, it grants you power over both the living and the dead.
Wow, cool. So, like you mentioned, now how deep do you want to go early? Do you all do a synopsis?
I do want to stop. I do want to stop and so it seems like you noticed Archie was not present.
Archie.
Touch on
I noticed
that.
Archie's gone. I noticed. Veronica is in femme fatale mode. We have a Reggie who's as unscrupulous, a little weasel as he is in the comics. And we have a Betty who I did not realize is now an FBI agent.
Well, that's because the serial killer gene.
Yes,
it was the serial killer gene.
Yeah.
Would it make anything make more sense if we told you that Betty's father was a notorious serial killer and that Betty herself had inherited the serial killer gene?
Oh, wow. So Riverdale's coming on down hard on the genetic transference of evil?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it make anything make more sense if I let you know that 2 episodes before this episode, the entire town banded together in a pagan ritual to cut out the still beating heart of Archie against his will in order to appease the Maple Maiden and return sap to their maple groves?
What, that old cliche? I mean, what a dusty old trope that is. But
I think that's ripped straight out of the comics, if I remember correctly.
Yes, ripped from the comics, much as Archie's still beating heart was apparently ripped from his chest.
Yes.
To appease the Maple Maiden, was it?
Yeah.
So am I to understand that season 6 is sort of like an amplification of all the weirdest tendencies of this show? I'd always heard from people who liked Riverdale that it was like the Archie comics, but with like David Lynch sort of sprinkled over top.
The first season is definitely Twin Peaks. Like they're investigating a murder, and that's kind of opening up almost a la Broadchurch, bigger implications in the town. That Americana, once you scratch the surface, it's like David Lynch's whole thing of like, you look at a beautiful tree in the suburbs and you realize it's covered in ants.
Yes.
Like that was season 1. I will say that was Riverdale. Do you mind if I ask you where this show takes place?
Thanks. I didn't realize we were going into the quiz portion. But yes, you asked me to watch Riverdale, and I'm sorry. I've spent 42 minutes watching about a town called, checking my notes, Rivervale?
That's correct.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Completely different beast. Completely different beast.
Yeah, so this seems to be either it's teed up by our pal Jughead, tapping away on his trusty typewriter, telling us that there's a fun folktale he'd like to riff on. So you get the sense that this is maybe in a sort of narrative, imaginative space, or perhaps some other layer of reality that we're witnessing, which is very Lynchian too. Like, like so much of Twin Peaks, especially, are the lodges, these different sort of
not to be mistaken by Veronica and Hiram Lodge, just to be clear.
And also Betty's last name is Cooper, is it?
Betty Cooper.
So she is Agent Cooper.
Oh my god! Ross,
you're
blowing our minds right now.
Oh my god!
Pop's Chocolate Shop is so much the diner.
Can I be honest with both of you? It's already established lore on this podcast that even though I will confidently assert that Riverdale season 6 is the best season of television ever made, I have never seen Monk, Frasier, The Wire, or The Sopranos, and I've also never seen Twin Peaks.
Riverdale season 6 is the only season of television Sara has ever seen and will ever see.
Yeah, you've never seen The Sopranos, but you have watched Riverdale season
The
6.
Sopranos. This is really
times.
giving some season 6 Riverdale vibes. Like this is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Whatevs.
Yeah,
but that sort of Lynchy quality was very noticeable. But it seems like this, if the season is emblematic of this episode, that they're really cranking the supernatural factor up quite a bit. But what was also odd is in Lynch, there's a kind of uncanny performance style, a sort of stilted quality to those performances that make them capital L Lynchian and give them that sort of dream logic feeling. And Riverdale doesn't have that sort of performance, but it is a sort of everyone is in this neutral gear of reacting to things not incredibly emotionally. Even when what they're reacting to is that their immortal soul has been sold to the literal devil.
Maybe we should get into that.
Everyone seems to take things pretty much in stride.
Yeah, let's get into that, Russ. Should we do this one kind of storyline wise again, Omar? What do you think?
I guess let's choose a storyline and let's kind of cut into that and kind of divvy up and analyze the themes.
Were there any of the storylines that really stood out to you, Russ?
Yeah. They all stood out to me. It was a French braid of compelling tales.
Yeah.
The one that really resonated with me was Pop.
Okay. Let's start with Pop.
Yeah, Pop's story, because he actually is engaging in this battle for his business / Armageddon zone.
Yeah, so Pop has a heart attack. And his granddaughter, Tabitha Tate, is in the hospital where she meets, in our first introduction to this good friend of ours, Mr. Lou Cypher, who informs her pretty quickly. He's not being coy about this. He's the literal devil, and he has a claim on her grandfather's soul.
Yeah. I would have gone, this isn't the purpose of the show, but I would have gone with Louis Cypher personally.
Oh, I like that.
My name is Mr. Cypher, but you can call me Louis.
That would have been a cool take also, although it would not have called to mind the Robert De Niro movie Angel Heart, in which he also plays a character named Lou Cypher.
You're right. You're completely right. You know what? I would have missed the mark. I would have missed the mark by not getting. Yeah,
the layers of intertextuality are deep.
I love this. I love this presentation of the devil. I love just like the dramatic reverb, and I love all of his lines. I don't know who this actor is. He does a great job as Mr. Cypher. I think he kind of crushes it.
There are, I will say with him, and this is a little unfair because like not everyone here has seen Twin Peaks, but like whenever it cuts to the dark screaming like devil, like this is the true face of evil.
Yeah.
That is a little Twin Peaksy. That is a little like you look in the mirror and it's someone yelling and the smoke is moving in reverse and stuff.
Yes. It also struck me as very Exorcist. Face of Pazuzu there in the darkness. But just not to interrupt the flow of the
there's no rules here, Ross.
But I just want to point out that when Pop has his heart attack, when he sees Lou Cypher's true face revealed through the window of the diner, it happens seconds after his is this his niece? Granddaughter?
Granddaughter.
His granddaughter has just said, "You have the biggest heart of anyone I know." So,
ooh, baby, that's called art, Ross. That's poetry.
Yeah, he lays that moment up on a tee to get walloped.
Imagine if she had said anything else, like you've got the best knees out of anyone in town. Like what other afflictions would have happened?
Pop, your spleen is just killing it.
Yeah. You've got the most benign appendix of anyone in town. What's wrong?
Yeah, he has a heart attack. He goes and Lou Cypher hands her a business card. I love the business card. I love the contracts. I love all these like devil props. This is not a subtle devil.
No.
And why would you be if you're the devil? Why would you care if people know you're the devil?
The contract literally has 666 at just the top. That's just the introduction.
Yeah, enormous 666, two like woodcut devils flanking
great.
the 666, and it's like soul contract. And yet, several times over the point of the episode, we're led to believe that people have signed this by accident.
Yes.
To play, and pardon my phrasing here, but to play the devil's advocate, he is dealing business in a town where he's like, I'm the devil and here's the contract. And Kim goes, I don't care. I'll sign anything. And he's like, no, but I went through a lot of theatrics to get here. Okay. This took it's not easy to get this type of calligraphy anymore. I had to get this notarized. It was a big deal. And they're just not paying attention to it. It would be like if Batman was in town and they were just like, oh, lone normal man is going around stopping crime. And he's like, no, I'm not a normal man. I'm a giant bat. I feel for Lou in this episode, if I'm being quite honest.
I like Lou. I think he's actually kind of a sympathetic character.
I like Lou too, and it's a shame that so many of the citizens of Rivervale are so underwhelmed by his panache. This is a really interesting depiction of the devil, and he's often wearing like the black suit with the red tie and the red pocket square combo, like just classic devil stuff.
Classic devil.
Who are some of your favorite cinematic devils?
Ooh.
Do you like not technically the devil of the Bible, but are we saying like your Tim Curry in Legend? Do you like?
Yes.
Do you like?
Here's my problem. I've only ever
Al
seen
Pacino in Devil's Advocate.
I've only ever seen one representation of the devil in media.
Right. Okay, so so this is the benchmark, against which all other devils must be.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate you start at the top. You got to now work your way down. Yeah.
Are we considering depictions of death as well, or is it just the devil?
I mean, sure.
That's not the devil.
Yeah,
that's not the devil. That's what I'm feeling.
The devil.
You want to go for like a Meet Joe Black situation?
I'm feeling a Seventh Seal angle.
Sure. Playing a little bit of chess.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the most off one, because a lot of mine are death too, like the furnace in the Brave Little Toaster and stuff.
Absolutely,
I'm trying to think of,
for sure.
The devils, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I do have an answer. My favorite iteration of the devil is on the only ride in Disneyland. Actually, that might have changed since Star Wars was introduced. But the only ride in Disneyland before Galaxy's Edge, which is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Look it up. Everything else is technically an attraction, according to Walt himself.
Okay.
But on Mr. Toad's, at the end, you get, not to spoil the ride, but 37 seconds into the ride, you get to the end, which is you are in hell. And then there is this judge that yells, "Guilty." And I think that guy is my favorite.
The three devils that are kind of popping out to me in media are the devil and the devil went down to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we don't see how he's depicted, but I like that devil.
Also, not an original observation by any means, but the devil band in The Devil Went Down to Georgia, way better than
so
Johnny.
much better. Oh, okay.
Sick
Devil band,
bass.
sick. I like the South Park version of the devil. I think he's funny. And the only other one that's like a devil that's jumping out at me is and by jumping out at me I mean I just briefly skimmed the Wikipedia article The Devil in Arts and Pop Culture, and the one that jumped out at me from the list was the character Him from the Powerpuff Girls.
I was about to say, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yes. Nothing but love for him. Honestly, might get the Sin Pie Award this episode, even though it was not featured whatsoever in the episode, just mentioned in the episode of the podcast.
Last shout for me. How do we feel about the devil elevator in M. Night Shyamalan's Devil?
Oh, you know what? Easily best devil. I think we personify a little bit too much.
Technically, is it really the elevator? Is it really the old woman in the elevator?
It's a package deal for me. I wouldn't want to encounter one without the other.
and Ross, you're sort of an expert in Lucifer at this point. Who is your favorite iteration?
I like so many, or I appreciate so many, I should say. But there's a movie, I think it's from the 40s or 50s. It's a movie version of The Devil and Daniel Webster, where the devil is portrayed as this kind of like fast talking, grinning little imp, country hayseed. It's something right out of folklore, and it ends after he's been sort of defeated by I don't know how well you know the Devil and Daniel Webster tale, but after he loses the court case in front of the jury of the dead, the last you see of the devil is him sitting on a fence post gobbling up a stolen pie.
Oh yeah,
and that's good stuff.
That's fantastic.
It's sort of the Tom Sawyer devil.
Yeah, I also like the giant geometric hovering monstrosity, cyclopean monstrosity that's in Hell in the Hellraiser series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hellraiser 2 Hellbound. That's super gnarly.
This isn't the purpose of the podcast, but I would love to see the characters and the world of Hellraiser, but in different genres. Just like a nice little like Western. They go in like kind of like you know how Fievel kind of just started to spin out. Rescuers started to do different things. Maybe Hellraiser deseres that kind of treatment.
Yeah,
I would be opposed.
Pinhead goes west.
Pinhead goes west.
Cinnabon. Yeah. We're here to tear your dang old soul apart.
Speaking of tearing souls apart, Ross, I have a question for you. Let's say you're in a hospital. Let's say your grandfather's just had a heart attack.
Right.
And the devil, a man that you immediately trust is the devil because he does have a scary face and makes weird noises.
Right.
He offers
also, the lights flicker quite a bit.
The lights do flicker.
Always an ominous sign. Also very Lynchian. If lights start flickering, bad stuff's about to happen.
Bad stuff's going down. And the devil offers you what seems like a pretty simple trade. He'll give you back your grandfather's soul in exchange for your family diner. Are you agreeing to this deal?
It seems like a small price to pay. Diners come and go, but the soul is forever.
Yeah. See, that's where you and Tabitha both would have made a crucial mistake in not recognizing that sometimes the diner or chocolate shop, as the case may be, is the actual soul of the town itself.
Right. It is the soul of the town, which I thought was a pretty profound statement on the part of Pop. Like very Shakespearean device where our polity is a body. Who is the head? Who is the stomach? Who are the arms of Rivervale? Because we know where the soul is. It's apparently Pop's, which leads one to question. Is if are Pops and Babylonium the casino being set up as a sort of dark and light dyad here in Rivervale?
Sort of.
Yeah,
also very Lynch, having a place of iniquity here. Very one-eyed Jacks in Twin Peaks.
Now, if only we had a speakeasy type setting that was underneath Pops, that could kind of stand as like you descend beneath the soul. You go into the underworld. Maybe something called Le Bon Nuit, but unfortunately, we don't. For some reason, we're not doing that
like
this season.
No, I like this idea. Something maybe called like Le Bon Nuit.
Yeah,
maybe managed by Veronica Lodge. Yeah, that could be good. Like lots of musical acts, lots of beer.
Speaking of musical acts, not to constantly hop around, but this is what we do here. Also, the dog I'm watching over is eating every box that she has found, and I'm really proud of her for this. She's just sorting them out. This is great. The question I have is, how do we feel in an episode about our friend Lou Cypher, who is selling souls? The song choice of a song that kind of doesn't really seem to touch on devil themes. Are we like good?
Or you could argue also doesn't touch on any theme.
Which of the two performances are you talking about?
Are you referring to It's Not Unusual? Or?
Yeah, like maybe it's a Mars Attacks reference in a way that I am not connecting to another dot. But
I will say the one thing I might argue there is he's like, I don't want to die, or I would die, or something, when it cuts to Lou Cypher. So that's the one thing I'll argue.
Here's what I'll say. I think it's thematic because I think Lou Cypher is giving Kevin a taste of what it's like to be beloved and famous, and it's in this slice of a potential reality where for Kevin it's not unusual to be loved by someone, but in his real life it is.
Can we talk about how the devil gets to Rivervale and immediately goes after the gay boy? Can we talk about that?
I mean, we could talk about it, but it's not true because first he immediately goes after Pop's chocolate shop.
He goes after Pop.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Pop. Sorry.
Yeah,
Pop might be gay.
Good for Pop.
Who knows?
But I do want to stick with Pop's and Tabitha plotline for a second here. Ross, do you remember what happens next in this storyline? There's so much going on in this episode.
What a question.
Well, if I recall, there's, they're chatting about this. The next thing I remember is that a gentleman comes to the counter of the chocolate shop asking for soup gratis. And Tabitha says, you can have some soup on the house. For this act of true Christian charity, Tabitha is approached by another mysterious man who is seated at the bar of the chocolate shop, who tells her that he's, quote, one of the good guys, unquote. Yeah, and then says that his name is Raphael, thus implying that he is the Archangel Raphael.
Yes.
That Pop's chocolate shop is important to great happenings to come. And then he gives her a little vial of Chanel number 5.
I do want to pause you right there, Ross. I know because you've seen the whole episode, you know what was in the vial. What did you think was in the vial?
It looked a lot like what is it? The light of Galadriel. That little
the light of Galadriel.
Little vial that is given to the hobbits.
I just assumed it was
I had some theories,
water.
I guess, that were rolling around. I was like, okay, maybe this is some sort of like holy balm of some kind. Obviously, this is some magical potion. I did not expect it to be as specific as it winds up being.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting to me. I remember the first time I watched that episode and I saw Raphael hand Tabitha the vial. I immediately was like, oh, those are the tears that the Virgin Mary shed at the crucifixion.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I guess it's just like, you come in with different influences behind you.
Sure.
Can I ask, and I don't want to get us, this is like genuinely a question, in terms of like history and biblical lore. How were those tears collected? I didn't go to like Catholic school or anything. My mom did, but then she didn't tell me these things.
I mean, I didn't either go to Catholic school, but the trade in holy relics is so fascinating to me that like at any given time, especially in like the medieval era, there are a bunch of different churches around Europe, all of which claim to have pieces of the true cross, the spear of Longinus, the spear that allegedly pierced the side of Christ, apparently
allegedly
in St. Peter's behind a statue of Longinus up there.
That's a weapon. That's a weapon that plays an important role in a couple different animes.
Yes, and role-playing games as well. There were, I think, 4 or 5 heads of John the Baptist around. So the idea that, and you've got, of course, like the Shroud of Turin, all this stuff. So it's not, if you think all that is authentic and you've got all these holy relics of that time and all centered on the crucifixion, that why wouldn't you have somebody daubing Mary's face and then wringing that out into a vessel?
And you know what? Now that I think about it, if it's an angel holding it out, I guess there's a. My question maybe is asked in bad faith, because I guess if it's an angel saying I have these tears, then it's like, Yeah, I guess you could do quite a bit, can't you?
Yeah.
Being an angel and all. Like,
given that, Ross, I apologize, and Azzy for a spoiler here. Given that Tabitha goes on in just a few episodes to attain the power of time travel, I think it's
cool.
well within the realm of the universe for the Archangel Raphael to be able to
you're right. I don't know where
in time that he
That's
wants.
a cool thing to just drop on people.
I will say, and I'm sharing this. I'm sharing this anecdote just to shout out someone, really. That's the purpose of this. But I was at an art museum in Melbourne, Australia. And
I appreciate you pronouncing it as Melbourne.
Melbourne, Australia. I will overcorrect to make sure I try to say it as Australian as possible. And we were walking, a friend of mine and I were walking around the art exhibit. And then a security guard was like, "Do you want to see something really cool?" And took us over to a relic. And was like, what a lot of people don't realize, and it was this old cross, this hand carved wooden cross that was like floating, like the strings were like attaching. It was like wire was making it float. And he was like, "Look behind it," and behind it was a bit of bone that was like in a carved out area. And I remember this. The security guard said, "Yeah, that is the bone of a saint." And we're like, "Oh my god!" And he went, "Or just some guy we don't know." And I loved that. I really appreciated that experience. I thought that was so honest, and I just felt so respected and cared for in that moment by that gentleman of just, or it's just a bone. Anyway, have a good day, boys. And then left.
Yeah.
That's great.
Ross, great stuff. Love an old reliquary. Love a golden arm that contains the arm bone of Saint Bartholomew or whatever.
Ross, I have another question for you. I'm going to put you in a position here, a hypothetical.
Okay.
Let's say that the Archangel Raphael has handed you a vial of the tears the Virgin Mary shed at the crucifixion. And let's further say that the devil has a claim on your grandfather's soul, and he's trying to get you to sell the chocolate shop that is your family diner that's also the soul of the town. How would you use the tears that the Virgin Mary shed at the crucifixion to try to come out on top in this situation?
What would be your strategy?
I think. Now, I'm no Sun Tzu. I don't not the best strategic mind in the world, but I think I'm pretty good. And so I think that the best way to go about this is to sneak said tears into a tall, frosty strawberry milkshake.
Okay, interesting.
And slip it to the devil on the sly.
Wow, you may be no Sun Tzu, but you might be Tabitha Tate.
Yes.
Wow, okay, so this seed made perfect sense to you then.
Yeah, 5 steps ahead.
When Tabitha said, after signing a contract with the devil, said, "I want a milkshake to remember it by."
Yes.
I was a little confused about what the strategy was there.
Yeah.
So am I wrong about this? She signed the contract. Like, they both signed the contract.
Yeah, they signed it.
And then they're like, now we use the tears and kick you out.
They needed the devil to give up his claim to Pops's soul.
It was an so Pops then goes back into like an escrow, like a limbo escrow. Does that make sense?
Well, I think the devil, they do sell it, but it's just like, because they've consecrated the chocolate shop, the devil might have a legal claim in the laws of hell, but he simply can't enter the premises.
Yeah, because they do make a show of rubbing the tears on the lintel of the door of Pops to keep the dark one away.
Yeah.
You can also, fun fact, and a little bit of a throwback to episode 1 of season 6, you can use peppermint oil to keep spiders away from window sills, similarly.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But we are informed that from this moment on, Pops is consecrated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is important.
But the evocation of the tears of the Virgin Mary does nail this down.
Oh my God.
No
so
pun
good.
intended, to explicitly Christian cosmology.
100%.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Odin will be busting in episode 4, untouched, unfettered.
That is true. Okay. What I'll say is the Christian mythology is true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still open whether or not other mythologies are true.
Yeah, it's kind of a supernatural situation.
We also know that like lots of pagan things are true.
Yes,
this is canon.
Right. It's Indiana Jones logic and everything else you're saying, where you open the Ark of the Covenant and the power of Yahweh will shoot out, but also the stones of Shiva contain actual power.
Correct.
It's kind of Avengers logic where like Steve Rogers prays to a Christian god, and you do have like Thor and Loki and like the entire rest of all the Marvel pantheons at your disposal as well.
Right.
I'll just go ahead and drag Milton into all this, since John Milton was a huge classical dork, loved classical mythology, loved Ovid and Virgil, and was obsessed with the poetry of that mythology, and was at pains to sort of Christianize it and make it all under one banner. And so much of Paradise Lost is sort of saying that all of these are all those myths are sort of poetic evocations of Christian symbolism. So like Hephaestus getting hurled out of heaven by Zeus is like Lucifer being cast out of the Empyrean of heaven. Also the Titans getting thrown down is the same. And so in the same way that a Christian typological scholar would go back to the Old Testament and say, like, here's all the things that are calling forward to Christ and his passion.
Yeah.
Milton and others were doing the same thing of going into classical mythology and being like, see, this is actually misinterpretations of Christian signs and wonders.
Or sort of like how like Fiona Nightclaw 33 might incorporate both Harry Potter and Frodo Baggins into her story about her own sexual awakening.
Yes,
absolutely. And because one of the great, I think that there is a case to be made that Paradise Lost is perhaps our finest work of fan fiction.
Yeah, 100%.
Since Paradise Lost is literally a guy trying to write of the third testament of the Bible.
And Fiona 93 is the second.
I would say, if I may.
Yeah, it's sort of a Mormonism to John Milton's Christianity. And speaking of second, let's get into that second plot line.
Let's do it.
And I think we should turn to the Jughead plot line, perhaps.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The struggling artist. I mean, this is a plot that we can all kind of relate to in a bit.
Oh, God, 100%. If look, I would, as someone who's experienced so much writer's block in my life, I can relate hard to this. So yeah, Jughead is offered. Well, okay, Tabitha comes home and she's like, "Yeah, this guy was at Pops' hospital room and he was the devil." And Jughead's just like, "Fuck, do you mind if I call him?"
He didn't give you a card, did he?
He didn't leave us a card, did he?
Good.
I need to mention, because it is mentioned in this episode, and it is one of my favorite bits of Riverdale, is Jughead's full name.
Yes.
Which I don't know, Ross, if you picked that up.
All I caught was it's Jughead Jones, right?
Well, what
was the middle name?
So Jughead's a nickname. His real name is Forsyth Pendleton Jones III.
Correct.
I wonder if that's from the comics. That seems like a very like 1960s ass joke.
Comics thing.
To have somebody have a really long
kind
name
of like a
that.
Shaggy Rogers situation.
Yeah,
we'll throw that over to Ask Azzy.
That's
our
great.
ongoing segment.
Azzy, let us know when you have an answer.
Will do.
For now, so Jughead talks to the devil. He has this
networking. We call it networking in the industry.
Networking, and the devil offers him a deal.
This is his general.
Wow. Yeah, that's his comics. That's his Christian name.
Love it.
Yeah. The devil offers Jughead a deal. He says, "I will give you the most mind-blowing interview of your life where I reveal all the secrets of the universe." I'm just going to do that. That's on the table. Your options then are to either publish it and receive plenty of fame and accolades and never be able to write again, or not publish it. And that's kind of the deal.
No,
yeah, I know. I was like, the stakes of this are somehow off to me.
And I will say, we established in the last episode that like Jughead is suffering from, I would not say writer's block. I would say like just he can't do it. Like he's trying to do his like To Catch a Watchman situation. But like it's just not coming through. So I feel like this is a pretty easy, just do 2 and then out, right? Like, how do we feel about this decision? Ross, what would you choose? Let me ask that question. What with these 2 options?
I mean, if it's me, I might just choose to do the artist's way. And
oh, you mean like just write it and do it?
I could get out of my block. But yeah, this is kind of a baffling choice.
Right.
I think at an ethical level, if I'm offered this choice, 100% you have to publish it.
Yeah, like, I mean, on an ethical level, certainly.
I'm sorry, you don't get to write anything for the rest of your life. Whatever. You just revealed all the secrets of Satan and the universe to everyone.
Because you do get to also review the secrets. Because it could be a thing where like you look at it and you're like, this is pretty straightforward. Like you just explained how the tides work and we kind of already knew that. We had a pretty good sense of how that happens.
Yeah. You never get any sense of what the actual secrets are that are revealed.
Yeah.
Well,
he gets a call from his agent where he's like, love the interview with the devil. You got it.
Really
one little shot.
Jughead.
There's one shot where we see the article Jughead wrote, and you can't read very much of it. But one of the fun facts in there that I could decipher was that the devil's the accomplishment of which the devil is most proud are the Crusades. And it's followed
incredibly
up
proud of them.
All that killing done in the name of God.
Yeah.
Scathing.
Yeah. So there you go.
Real Woodward and Bernstein thing. See, what this really is a critique, perhaps, of the debased state of print journalism right now. Because if Jughead was in 1959, and was like a Norman Mailer-esque new journalist who could put out this one expose, then the fame of that, he could never publish anything again and would still be on like Dick Cavett every other week, chopping it up with Gore Vidal and having a great time. But these days, no, he produced that one piece of journalism and then would have to maybe start a podcast.
Well, we do see his attempt at writing after this. He does write something along the lines of
the devil cursed him to only write in webdings after releasing his opus.
It is tough. It is tough because let me now. Okay, now that we know what the secrets are, I would like to reiterate the question to the panel. If it was don't publish this and continue to write and live your life, or publish this and you can never write again, and the world reads, "Oh, the devil was behind the Crusades." Okay, and that's like your big scoop. Like, how would you feel?
I assume there's a lot more there.
There's gotta be.
One would hope, right? Because what if it's just the Crusades and then, also I gave Pop a heart attack. Like, what if it's just a really short pamphlet sort of situation?
That's all he's ever done. And the only interaction that the devil has ever had with the real world is through Riverdale and the Crusades.
Yes. And starts to make stuff up where it's like, and also the pilot for Desperate Housewives. And we're like, I don't think you wrote that. And he's like, oh, yeah, but no, sorry, I was confused. Yeah, that wasn't me. You're right. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not a big scoop.
I, as the devil, have influenced Pope Urban II and Pop.
That's it. That's all he's done. But unfortunately for Jughead, he's nothing if he's not a writer.
Yeah.
So he, the emotions jump. Ross, you were saying the sort of neutral gear that all these characters are acted in. Until Jughead realizes that he's nothing if he's not a writer. Then it's pumped way up to 23. And he sells his soul to be able to write again.
Yes. And this you realize is the devil's gambit all along. He put him in an impossible position and he knew he'd come crawling on back.
Yep.
So had Jughead sold.
Speaking of devil's
in the
gambits,
comics, I feel like Jughead would have just sold it to him for one hamburger.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's also established in this episode in the Babylonian plotline, which we're about to get into, that different souls are worth different amounts to the devil. So, speaking of that Babylonian plotline,
real quick before we wrap up Jughead, I need to shout out my favorite bit of the episode is when after Jughead has resolved to go back on his deal with the devil and regain the ability to write, but sell his soul, he writes on a typewriter the sentence, Jughead Jones is damned for all eternity.
And then he smiles because he can write again.
Which is awesome. That's just awesome. I don't have an insight. Like, I don't have any insight here. That's
it's just
awesome.
kind of metal.
No. That's a cool sentence that exists.
Somebody wrote, there was a whole room of people and somebody wrote Jughead Jones is damned for all eternity. And everyone else in the room went, yeah, we're going with that. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of people being in the room, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Betty plotline because I don't think we're going to have time to get to it.
Yeah.
The devil pretends to be the trash bag killer. It turns out it's the devil. Betty's dad and sister are burning in hell. Betty tries to murder the devil with a pair of scissors. Turns out it was her FBI boss, Glenn, and Glenn's body then gets buried under the floor of Betty's house, and that's that whole plot.
Can I ask you a quick question? Really quick, because I know that we do have to get through another 40 minutes of the episode. Why? I might have missed a bit. Why couldn't the trash bag killer take off the mask?
Oh, because it wasn't actually him. It was the devil.
But what? But what was why couldn't Betty remove the mask? Is it like Gotham logic?
No, she could have.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure she could have. It's just I think there's something with the whole, he wasn't actually in FBI custody. He was she was invited there by the devil, something or other.
Yeah. Which made me, maybe I missed something, but where were they?
In an FBI
just a
interrogation room.
But the FBI doesn't have him in custody, but he's there.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was in an interrogation room. I think he was just in a place. It was a garage.
That was the devil the whole time.
Right. And the guy who tells her that is the
devil.
Right.
The guy who tells her that is her boss, Glenn, that she ends up murdering with scissors and burying under her house.
Yes, but
after being told that she's destined to be the whore of Babylon.
Right.
Yeah.
Important, more fun Christian apocalypticism coming in.
You'd think the whore of Babylon would be the woman actually opening up the casino called the Babylonium.
You'd think.
But no.
And Betty delivers an incredible line of, I'm the whore of Babylon from the book of Revelation. I don't think so.
Yes.
Which is incredible.
Yes, ma'am.
So. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have time for Betty. I'm so sorry.
Moving on.
We've talked about Kyle.
Minutes.
Kevin. Kevin sells his soul so quickly. He's so desperate to have his gay boyfriend assistant Finn.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. And Lou Cypher
sings Tom Jones, and it's said that he's going to be joining the cast of The Boy from Oz.
Yeah, opposite Hugh Jackman.
Opposite, yeah. So not the starring role. Am I to understand that?
Yeah, no.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Lou Cypher's here is winning too much money. Veronica tries to kick him out. Long story short, we find out Reggie sold his soul in order to complete the investment in the casino. And so Veronica lures known established rapist Senator Nick St. Clair and just entraps him into a double soul contract, which is great.
Yeah, that's Veronica. I mean, Veronica plays the game. Everyone else, I feel is kind of struggling with all this Lucifer stuff. For Veronica, this is just a Tuesday. She really is playing this thing. And I think she would agree with me that Louis Cypher would also do. I think I'm just caught on the Lou of it all.
Yeah. What about Lucifer?
That is fantastic. And Lucifer, and a spinoff with Lucifer and Cruella DeVille.
Yes.
I could not be more into that Disney Plus programming.
That would be great. The devil unfortunately informs Veronica that Reggie's soul is never on the table because it's a paltry, meager thing that he's not interested in. And instead, Reggie had tricked Veronica into signing one of these 666 soul contracts.
Yeah.
And Ross, you haven't seen the other episodes.
No.
Through the other episodes, Reggie has been fine. Reggie has been like, he's been like maybe kind of a dick at some points.
Well, their relationship's rocky after episode 2 when Reggie kind of falls in love with a haunted ghost car potentially possessed by the old driver's ed teacher who molested the boys at his high school.
Yeah, but
what's it now?
but moving on from that,
we don't have time. We don't have time.
He's been like fine. He's been like fine, and so the reveal of this guy has sold his girlfriend's soul to the devil.
Yeah.
He's insane.
But
that's insane.
I do believe, Reggie, that he only did it because he firmly believed Veronica would find a way out of it.
Yeah. He trusts his queen.
He trusts
her.
It
makes some later things just baffling.
It's a Doctor Who Clara sort of situation where Capaldi's like, she's got it. Like, don't worry. We're equals. Don't worry about this. She can get away from these robots. It'll be fine.
Point of order, Sarah, have you seen that season of Doctor Who?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not.
I just wanted to check if that's another season to tell
we might have hit a little bit of a cheer situation
seen
again.
Most of Doctor Who, and Clara's when I fell off.
Okay.
It's not Clara's fault. I'm not a Stephen Moffat enjoyer.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Makes sense. It is a lot of like, I also kind of fell off of the Doctor Who train somewhat. It just became so much lore crushing the characters, or like so much that the characters have to wrap up by behaving in ways that only make sense on a screenwriter's whiteboard.
There goes our chance. There goes our chance of getting Stephen Moffat on.
If only they had learned.
Come at me, Moffat.
If only the writers of Doctor Who had learned from the premier balancers of character, plot, and lore, the writers of Riverdale season 6.
Yes.
Who enable Veronica to come up with a pretty clever plan, actually.
Yes.
He gets away out of it by offering to become the expediter for the Devil's Skim operation, guaranteeing him what it sounds like at least one soul a week, or she is damned to the fires of hell.
Now, is this a little bit of a repeat of last week where Tony was like, I'll trade places with La Llorona? Like, is it kind of not similar?
It's the exact opposite. Tony's like...
I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's the exact opposite. Yeah.
Okay, so for reference, Ross, Tony has La Llorona coming after her baby.
Oh, dear.
And in order to save her baby, she offers to take on the mantle and eternal suffering of being La Llorona and free the woman who's been currently trapped in that role.
Okay.
Veronica kind of does the opposite. She's like, in order to avoid eternal damnation, I will give you as many fucking souls as you need, dude.
Right,
I will be the devil's middle manager.
Yeah. It's a little bit the Barber of Seville in a way. Like, I really respect the move.
It's a great move.
Yeah.
And especially if he will accept paltry, meager souls like Reggie's and Nick St. Clair's as part of like the bulk package.
Yeah. Maybe Ariel should have brokered a similar deal. I know she got really lucky at the end with the ship skewering Ursula, but like perhaps that could have been a negotiation where she was like, look, you got a lot more jars, and I know a lot of people.
Like
that chef. The Le Poisson chef. I feel like you could serve that guy up for starters. Yeah. That's week 1. That's in the bag.
Ross, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Let's say your options were be dragged down to the eternal fires of damnation, or become the devil's expediter of souls and grant him one soul a week.
I mean, seems like a pretty easy choice.
Specifically on Sunday mornings.
Right. Yeah. If those are my only options, then I guess I just got to work it off with the. But the thing is, like, the devil's a liar, y'all. That's part of the deal. So, I mean, you're only prolonging that. It's a stay of execution. You're going down eventually. unless of course, Pop and the gang, with the assistance of Raphael, work out some way of helping you out. But
yeah. I mean, look, all I'll say is Reggie should not have double-crossed her, and he should have been more careful about which pen he used to sign for liquor deliveries.
Yeah. So much of this is like, so many of these soul contracts are signed with the blasé, half attention of a like terms and conditions pop up.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And again, they look insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a massive 666 on the front, but
I do want to shout out my favorite line in the episode potentially. That's for you. You better answer it. Or do you want to get dragged out kicking and screaming like a little bitch?
Yeah. Got his ass.
Got his fucking ass. And to Reggie's credit, he does answer the harrowing call of fire and
then you hear him being dragged to hell. Unless we forget, before that, Veronica does sing a Lady Gaga song. Am I right?
She does.
Yes.
Yeah, Married to the Night.
Yeah, for seemingly no reason, maybe.
No, I think it is about her situation becoming sort of the devil's bride, being married to the night.
Okay, I can see
That's
that.
actually why Joanne wrote that song. Fun fact.
Yes, she's becoming the devil's bride, which is odd that we've now identified Betty as the whore of Babylon. But maybe to go back to the classical well, perhaps this is Veronica assuming a Persephone-esque role.
That's true.
She and the king of the underworld are now forming an uneasy alliance.
I think there's no romance between Mr. Cypher and Veronica. I think he respects her as a colleague in the grift.
Yes.
Do you think that relationship will last? Question to the table.
Of Mr. Cypher and Veronica?
Yeah.
I don't think they're in a relationship. I think they're in a business relationship.
This is a business pact.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's not the Persephone comparison. You're right. Doesn't hold because there's very little romantic desire on the part of our friend Louis Cypher.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ross. I can't believe I can't tell you how much validation I just got hit with.
Ross, we're coming up on our hour here. First, Omar, do you have any final questions for Ross?
I mean, I mostly have the ultimate question that we deliver at the end of every episode. But before then, can I just get on a scale of 1 to Hellfire? How are we feeling about Louis Cypher's outfit?
Oh,
how are we feeling?
Fit
Like,
check.
Yes, like the jacket, the popped collars, the kind of like I wandered in for like I read a couple Hellblazer comics and then I tried my best.
Yeah, it's a guy dressing like a guy who he's seen in a picture who's dapper. It's not quite there. It's far be it for me to critique anyone's fashion. Good Lord. But he busted. No, it's there's something there. Yeah, there was a suit he was wearing, a sort of I think I brought it up before, dark suit, dark shirt.
Yeah.
Shimmery red tie, red pocket square. And this was nearly identical to a combo that I used to wear in like a Second City sketch comedy review circa 2012.
Yes, 100%.
I was getting flashbacks to the period in our history where like Mad Men had brought menswear back and slim and sleek profiles and ring-a-ding-ding ass aesthetics were very much popping, and that's what he seems to be serving. I like call me old-fashioned, but I like a Mephistophelian kitted out devil. I like a little cap with a long feather in it. I like a cloak. I like a really pointy Van Dyke goatee.
Absolutely.
Of course.
I personally, I also don't mind sort of the sprite like in like a woodblock painting and that is supposed to like a Faustian sort of devil.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that this episode could have benefited from Veronica talking to just like a glowing presence for the entire time.
Yeah, I like that. I and my personal favorite takes on the devil are the ones that lean into his angelic nature.
Yes.
Like in Devilman Crybaby, I love the Lucifer in that show, who's just like the most beautiful androgynous winged figure
to bring up Milton again, that is very much how he's depicted. So he is a fallen angel who has not yet lost all of his angelic nature, and he's a ripped, enormous hunk.
Yeah. I mean, Milton was obviously horny for the devil.
Yes, and of course, like we get, I think it's Veronica saying at some point, "A hope in hell," which, no hope in hell. That's just a cultural idiom, but it's also the title of the Sandman comics, where you go down to hell, and that's another, I mean, he's explicitly in the comics making Lucifer look like David Bowie.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So yes, a beautiful and angelic androgyne creature.
That is very, very true. Yeah. And he's been quoted as like, no, it's David Bowie. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Ross, do you have any other questions about this episode? Or we answer everything?
Well, my questions, I guess, could maybe just be answered by continuing to watch Riverdale.
Well,
probably
you
not.
say that now.
Or not. Perhaps. This very Lynchian, dangling threads aplenty.
I mean, selfishly, I'd prefer you don't continue to watch Riverdale, so we could maybe have you on as a future guest.
Okay, then perhaps I'll avoid it. But let me ask you this: do the tears of the Virgin Mary feature any more in the series? Does their magical potency come to anyone else's aid?
Yeah, I can't exactly remember if the tears themselves make another appearance.
I'm looking it up.
Tabitha herself does become quasi-angelic as part of her time traveling. And they are engaged in a very prolonged battle against the immortal racist warlock Percival Pickens, who is trying to gain dominion over the living and the dead.
You remember.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just, it's pulling from that old preschool chestnut.
Yeah. Okay, it does not look like the tears of the Virgin Mary that she shed at the crucifixion appear again in Riverdale.
It should be clarified. The first 4 episodes of this season are Rivervale, and it is sort of more of an anthology, kind of spooky anthology series.
Do each of these episodes at the beginning of the season sort of stand alone and not necessarily interrelate?
They're continuous. Like Archie was sacrificed in episode 1, and he's no longer around. But they're sort of their own episodes. And they are relevant because all of them take place in Rivervale, which does exist. It is just a splinter universe off of the main universe of Riverdale within the elaborate cosmology of Riverdale season 6. They are intercausal. Travel between the two is possible. And
we need to get like a realm map, like an ancient Nordic realm map, in order to
I'll work on it.
Which root of Ysidril does this descend?
I'm gonna get my Forgotten Realms planar map.
I mean, not to go back to the Milton well again, but to tempt me. But the cosmology there is one also of sort of pocket realms.
Yes.
You have hell down in the sort of sub basement of existence, but then it is surrounded by the realm of chaos and night.
Yes.
The sort of elemental chaos of all the classical elements in their unformed qualities just roiling around.
So pre-Socratic.
Milton's phrase is like all things in their pregnant causes mixed.
Oh my God, I love that.
Oh, that's a good pitch for the season too.
Yeah, and when Lucifer looks into this and sees what does he call it? Like his dark materials, the Lord's dark materials that he will use to create new worlds, possibly. That God didn't create something out of nothing. That there was this pre-existing chaos.
And the Apeiron, the strife.
And then out of that, kind of like, then there's our universe that's sort of like a bubble in that, dangling from heaven as if on a golden chain.
That's so beautiful.
And then you gotta go into our universe, which is the created universe that the divine has made. So it is this kind of like it's like a Matryoshka doll universe, kind of.
Yeah, and sort of it's exactly the same in this show, except instead of any of that, Hiram Lodge put a bomb under Archie and Betty's bed, and the combination of that act of pure evil and destruction with Archie and Betty making out in an act of pure love and devotion was enough of a cosmic juxtaposition to create an offshoot splinter universe that was Rivervale.
Yeah, as narrated by Jughead Forsyth Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our last question for you, Ross, is this was introduced by our first guest, Oscar Montoya. It is the Sin Pie Award. It is who ate the sin pie and left no crumbs, who stole the scene when they were in it. Now, we've awarded this so far to folks who are not members of the core cast, so it's really open to interpretation. Who would you like to award the Sin Pie to this episode? Who for you just really knocked it out of the park?
I realize that everyone's looking at me expecting, Ross, you're going to say Louis Cypher. That's obviously the senpai of the moment. A dapper Dan, if ever there was one. A smooth-talking, silver-tongued devil. But I buck expectations. And I'm going to say the senpai of this episode is none other than Pop.
Oh,
because look at your man. Goes down via a heart attack in the first scene. And by the end of the episode, seemingly unscathed.
Physically removing the devil from his diner.
Giving the devil the bum's rush from his diner after whipping up some delicious milkshakes containing the tears of the Virgin Mary.
That's the crucifixion.
Yeah. So he not only runs a small business that is the pillar of his community, dare I say the soul of his community, where you can get breakfast for dinner, but he has also consumed the lachrymose tears
he has
of the
consumed
mother
them, I
of
guess.
the incarnated God. And look, I like a big word. People know this about me.
Please.
And I think that Pop is a senpai because he has become lacrophagus.
Oh my God. He's an eater of tears.
He's a tear eater. And that rocks.
I love that. And Ross, I love the way you've been phrasing all of this because first of all, I could listen to you talk all day.
Yes.
Ross and I play D&D together and he's my DM. And 90% of the fun is just listening to Ross talk.
Yes.
Don't tempt me. It can be a real windbag.
But Ross, I want to ask a clarification here. The word senpai.
Oh, sorry. Yes. That's my Australian accent.
Are you saying the anime version?
Me?
Yeah. What is that in your head?
I mean, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have this wrong. I mean, officially, isn't senpai just kind of like your like a school mentor?
Yeah, so you're saying the Japanese word senpai.
I think the error is with me.
But it's taken on.
Omar, Ross and I are also both from Texas. So we have the same accent issue that you do.
Senpai.
Okay.
The words Omar is saying is SIN space PIE.
Yes.
It is. He ate up the senpai.
Yeah, it is a pie that Cheryl Blossom baked that was fed to Archie before Archie and Betty made love on a table in front of the pie. When Archie asked, "Can we skip the pie?" and Betty held his hand and smiled seductively and said, "No."
I had no idea that you were talking about a literal pie. I thought that was just some fun wordplay.
And then Archie got sacrificed, ripped the heart out by Cheryl Blossom. So.
Yeah,
great. Well, yes, Pop ate the whole senpai, but he is also
a senpai.
Notice me, senpai.
Notice me, Pop senpai.
Notice me, Pop.
I just want to say special shout out to Raphael.
Yes,
he really he delivered in his one scene.
Came in strong.
I hope there's more Raphael. Yeah,
and I'm gonna offer an honorary senpai slice to Betty's dad. His lines, while being tormented in the eternal fires of hell, where it hurts so much, Betty, it hurts, it burns, and the Chazzy Cheddars on Route 18. Oh my god.
Yeah. The summary of both her dad and her sister, I believe, from their experiences in hell are ouchie, ow, ow.
Yes,
Ooh,
it is
too hot.
It is the Far Side comic Hell's Hell's Kitchen. Ouch! This plate is hot. Like it really, they nailed it.
Speaking of nailed it, Ross, you crush at everything. You crush everything you're in. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me various places on the internet. I feel like the only social media that I really engage in is Instagram. I'm at RossBB. Hit me up if you want to see videos of where I'm performing and stuff. And Sara and I perform improvisation in Los Angeles. Come check it out. And you can see I'm on upcoming Dropout shows. So go to dropout.tv.
Check Ross out on Dropout. You can also check Ross and me out at Gen Con if you're going to be there. We're in a TTRPG-inspired improv show called Chill Touch at Gen Con.
Oh my God, yes. That's wonderful news. Oh, that's very exciting. Yeah. Listen up, Indiana. Get out there.
That's right.
Indiana. Thank you, Ross. Oh, also follow Ross on Instagram for wonderful cartoons. Ross is a very talented cartoonist as well.
Oh, beautiful.
Bless you all. What sweethearts. Thank you so much for having me. This is what a weird and wonderful world Rivervale is.
Producer Ozzy, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at I need Azrael, Azrael. You can also follow the podcast at Riverdale 6 Pod. That's SIXPOD. Yeah.
And you can find me on Instagram at Sara Rose Caplan. Sara no H Rose, like the flower, Caplan spelled properly, not like the motherfucking test prep company. And you can follow me there to get updates on the improv that I do around Los Angeles, sometimes with Ross when I'm lucky, and sometimes with my Herald team, Yikes, at UCB on Monday nights.
Yes. And I'm Omar Najam. You can find me at Omar Najam Film on Instagram and on the show ABCD over at the F and Funny channel on Sundays. And when we don't do an ABCD episode, we usually have an episode of Wikipedia D. Hosted by our good friend Sean Mar. So check that out. Sara and I have we've gotten the chance to go through the internet together, all the show Reboot.
Wikipedia D is so fun.
It is such a good time, and I imagine we'll be on many times by the time this episode comes out. I also just want to say, Ross, I've been such a fan of yours for so long. Your comedy creativity has inspired me for so long. So this is such a pleasure to get to sit down with you and chat about Rivervale.
Oh my God, bless all y'all's hearts. You're too nice. It was so sweet to chop it up with y'all for a while.
And that y'all, I want you to know, listener, that extends to you as well. Thank you for chopping it up with us. Thank you for watching Riverdale if you're watching it with us. Thank you for listening to this if you're not watching Riverdale. Either way, we love you very much. And what did we decide our ending was last episode? Oh, right. It was something like, bye.